Go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Uh, I see. Headphones will help. Is that better? Okay. I'm gonna turn yours way down while I mute while I talk.
Okay.
Let's just test it out. All right. Good. Hey everybody, it's just good to be here. I'm just so impressed with what AIME has been able to do in leading the way during these unprecedented times. That's such an overused term too, but this is truly unprecedented and something that is pretty stressful for a lot of people. So I got to just commend you, Anthony, for what you're doing, for what your team is doing, and what's going on. So I'm just glad to be here.
So give everybody just a quick overview of your background and your specialization. So anybody that didn't get to meet you at AIME Activator or doesn't have familiarity with you as a background, what your specialization is.
Sure. My background is in behavioral neuroscience, and that means that I spent 20 some years studying the brain and what it means, but specifically what it means to situations like this. I'm not a researcher. I'm somebody that took that research and said, what does it mean to our leadership style? What does it mean to how we communicate? What does it mean to selling, to presentation, to all those different pieces? And really, what does it mean in times like this? Because I think we can learn how to be a strong leader. We can learn how to be a great salesperson, a great father, great mother. But if we're under stress and we become a jerk, if we're under stress and we lose sight of everything, if you're in the military, you learn how to shoot a gun on the range, but you get into battle and then you hear guns go off. Now all of a sudden, you don't know how to do it. What good was that skill set? And so for me, it's about my whole world has been how do we perform under a stressful environment? And right now, this is sort of the ideal scenario for what it is that I've always had a passion for.
So I would say that one of the early reasons before this whole crisis happened that we talked about, this relationship, this partnership for brokers was really to be able to help brokers have the right mindset as they go through, changing environment, adopting technology, growing their businesses, and being focused on a lot of things that AIME has been focused on for quite some time. Now in this world, we're dealing with a whole bunch of different challenges, but the mindset is still the thing that I want to get 100% locked in, and I want to help. I want you to help us, make that adjustment, and that's one of the things I try my best to work with loan officers on is helping them understand that we got to keep things in perspective. I had just to give you a quick example so you can understand kind of some of the conversations that I'm having. I had a loan officer message me a little while ago and share that, this is a loan officer that's, probably closing a couple hundred loans a year, top loan officer in the country. And they shared with me that, this is a crisis, they're panicking. And what I try to point out was, you've accumulated wealth, you have a big house, beautiful house, cars, beautiful family, healthy everybody. You have people out there that are not paying their bills, that can't put food on their table for their families. We got to keep things in perspective and understand that things aren't that bad, even with the circumstances. So, Rene, share with us your thoughts on getting the right mindset to be successful during these times.
Sure, absolutely. Well, so let's just take a step way back, right? Let's get out of coronavirus. Let's get out of what's happening in interest rates, and let's look at the thing that we all have in common, which is how we process the world through this thing in our head, which is our brain. And if we can understand how we process information, I think everything begins to make a lot more sense. And so we have to understand. I'll give you a brief example. I was talking to my son, and we were driving from one place to another, and he was sad about something, and he's like, "Oh, I got to do X, Y, and Z again." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well," and he explained, "This is the reasons why." And I looked at him and I said, "Well," I said, "that's definitely one way of explaining this scenario to yourself. Are you open to another explanation of this scenario?" And he looked at me and he said, "Sure." And I gave him a completely different perspective. And when we looked at that new explanation, you watch his whole body shift from this sad and depressed to this look of saying, "Oh, well, maybe this is not so bad." And it was really about helping his mother move out of another house. And he was sad about it. And instead, he chose to be sad instead of looking at this fact that he could help his mom. And I look at that scenario of looking at life, our perspective of life and how we interpret everything comes down to how we explain it to ourselves. Okay. There are so many different ways to explain something. We can look at I'll give you an example. Let's go back to the concept of framing for a minute. And we know that everything in life that we understand comes from some frame of reference. Things that happen in our marketplace that we have no frame of reference for become disruptive, right? When Netflix first came out, we're like, what is Netflix? We have no frame of reference. When Uber came out, I just push an app and it's paid for. I don't have to I don't have to swipe a card. There's no frame of reference. So now when things come out in some sort of subscription model, we say, well, it's like the Netflix of some sort, right? Because we have a frame of reference. The challenge is that these frames of reference come from all sorts of places. If I were to say, the first words that come to mind, Anthony, when I say used car salesman, what would you say to me?
Sleazy.
Sleazy, right? So that is a frame of reference based on history and experience. But that frame of reference comes up in the back of our mind, makes its way out in front of us to create this filter of how we interpret things. Our frame of reference. So now our frame of reference is what determines our perception of life. And so if you are a used car salesman and I think sleazy, everything I'm perceiving from you comes from that filter of being untrustworthy. And what do we know about perception? Perception equals what?
Reality.
Our reality. So our frame determines reality. And so the way we understand what's going on, or some people just call it our mindset, because a mindset is such an overused term, we got to get really real with what that means. It really means of how we decide to explain what's going on. We can use terms like crisis. We can use terms like Armageddon. We can use terms like this is never before seen before. Those are frames that we have decided to wrap around what's happening right now. There are multiple different ones that are happening right now. You look at Fox and you look at CNN. They are right now, a current event happens and both of them race out, not to cover the story, but to put a frame around what's going on. One is framing for one party, the other one is framing for the other party. And all of a sudden, if we're not aware of what's going on, our emotional state begins to teeter between those different frames, and typically the ones that we have already bought into prior as to something that we hold on to. And so now we look at the changes that are going on and the coronavirus, and you look at interest rates and the markets and all of the things that are happening. The thing that we need more than anything right now is some level of structure, order, and predictability. Look at Barry Habib, why he is so needed and essential right now, because he is providing, amidst all of the misinformation, here are fundamental things to look at. And we look at him, that's what we look at him like a lighthouse. Where is Barry right now? What's happening? What's going on? No different if you're flying an airplane and you hit turbulence. The first thing we do is look at what? Flight attendants. And if they bumping around and they're doing fine and they're laughing, we're okay. But if we hit a turbulent moment and we see that flight attendant freaking out, we're also going to freak out. So now, here's what this really means, though. Everybody on this call is looking for that flight attendant, looking for that beacon of light, that person that how are we going to determine how we feel, forgetting that maybe people are looking to us as well. We have to really start being self-aware and saying, what is it? How are we deciding to explain what's going on to ourselves, to our kids? Every single leader is going to be judged at the end of this for how they acted, what they said, what they did, and how they behaved in a situation like this. And so mindset comes down to, how are we deciding to look at the scenario?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. One of the things that I shared with somebody earlier is if just to put in the most common basic scenario is, if a waitress is waiting on a gentleman that is a construction worker wearing a hard hat, has a $15 bill, and he gives her $5. That waitress is going to have the perspective that was very generous. What a great guy. He gave me that extra money. Now, if that waitress is waiting on, Bill Gates, and he has a $15 tab and he pays her $5, that perspective is going to be, that guy was a cheap bastard because $5 to him is so minimal. But that's perspective. And I think right now, more than anything, I see people losing perspective on some really, really important things, which is we are at a critical time, and the focus on money and the focus on commissions and transactions is something that we have to get past. And we have to focus on the long term. And the long term right now, to me, is relationships. It is the understanding that we have companies with employees and teams. We have members of our community, real estate agents. Everybody's going to be impacted in some degree with this. The important thing is for us to be in a situation where we're the calmness. We're bringing clarity to chaos. We're helping people understand this dynamic because, for me, what I do know is who is more concerned or more disrupted right now. Is it you because the MBSs just went 200 basis points this way or that way? Or is it the casino worker or the waiter or the hairstylist that this week will not be getting a paycheck and they live week to week? And those are the things that, for me, I even have to keep in perspective is, I'm not just communicating to loan officers and mortgage professionals, but communicating anybody that is not understanding what's happening right now.
That self-awareness right there is key right there. And if you are, and here's the thing, I say that but everybody listening here is a leader in some way, shape, or form. Well, Ken Blanchard had a conversation with him and asked him, how do you define a leader? And he said, leader is anybody who has influence over someone. It's that simple. If you are influencing some way, shape, or form, you are leading. And so that self-awareness around what are you posting? And not many people are going to like this. Be careful on the jokes that you post. Like if you're constantly posting jokes, like constantly, then how are you building your brand during this time? Is it, you say, well, I'm trying to bring levity. I said, okay, well, levity is a good thing, but where's the leadership in this? Because levity does not solve problems. Levity helps level set what's going on. But at some point, we actually have to make some decisions right now. And selling right now, talking to your real estate partners, being a beacon in a lighthouse and a guide for them right now, just ask yourself, how many people saw real estate agents posting about 0% interest rates? If that isn't an indication of how much you're needed right now, that I don't know what else is. I mean, I'm not even a loan officer, and I had to tell agents, I'm like, guys, you should take your post down. There's no such thing as a 0% interest rate. Like, what are you talking about? The Fed did? I'm like, oh my God. And this is that call where people need to go out there and start doing that, creating perspective on what's going on. Steve Harney, somebody that you and I have been talking about, his sole job is creating perspective right now, taking a step back out of the market, taking a look at, people think that right now crisis means a recession means somehow that housing prices are going to fall. Well, he says, well, let's take a look at the last 6 times it's happened and what's really happened in perspective. So I couldn't agree with you more. Perspective is everything. But then you guys all listening right now, this is about you. This is the time to lead. So you got to take this information, internalize it, and ask yourself, what are you going to do with it when you put it back out to the marketplace? Not just with those social media, picking up the phone and calling your agents. You got to give your perspective. Don't just forward something and allow them to create their own. You got to if you want to add value, if you want to lead, you put your perspective on it. And if you don't have a perspective, have the conversation, engage, and start developing a perspective so that you can translate that information to the marketplace. This is the time that we need you.
Yeah. The point that I would have, Rene, for you to think about it and to share with our audience is really when it comes to, when we think about the situation that's going on right now, I break it down in 2 buckets: reactive and proactive. And this is a conversation I've been working on with my team because we're going through an adjustment because we're all working from home and we've never done that before from a business perspective. And the way I look at it is somebody comes to you with a problem, you can react to it. Somebody comes to you with a problem and you immediately go focusing on a solution. Now you're being proactive. And to me, the way I look at content, the way that I look at communication is I survey people's pain points. And for me, my audience is loan originators. It's industry people that are uncertain and don't have access to the people that I have access to. So I look at it and say, I have access to these people. They're willing to give me their time. Let me take that wealth of knowledge and information that I have access to and help translate it to the market in a way that they can then translate it to the real estate agents and their consumers. But for you, I just wonder, when you think about loan originators and you think about the scenario you just posed, where you see, hey, 0% interest rate, it's not reacting to that. It's not seeing a realtor's post and just saying, okay, let me react to this post with a comment or a GIF or something, snide. It's understanding that you have to own a proactive response. And the proactive response doesn't even need to be targeted at that person. It needs to solve for the problem that person's presenting. That person's presenting a problem that I, like many people, listen to CNBC and Fox News, and I just heard 0% rates. Now you proactively need to understand that if that's what the problem is, how are you solving for the problem? Just simply saying that doesn't exist is not solving for the problem. It's translating expertise, information, things that are going on in the market, and helping people truly understand what is going on with interest rates. That's the difference between being reactive and proactive. And that's been, my approach and everything is we need to own the way people understand issues. We don't react to issues. We help people understand them.
This is just pure gold, my friend. Jim Rohn one time said, he goes, there's a difference between reacting and responding. And he said, what's the difference? Well, think about medication. He says, we gave you something. Well, he had a reaction to it. We don't want a reaction to a medication, right? Well, he responded well to the medication. It's like there's that difference between understanding which one is the calmer, level-headed approach. But what I like what you're saying is being proactive. And so I'm going to give you those listeners two tools on how to specifically take this into action right now, because I think we got to get into, let's take this theory and put it into action. I want you to write down 3 Ps. And those 3 Ps stand for this: predict, preempt, prevent. If you could predict, like Anthony just said, that you know that the market's going to make a shift and 0% interest rates come out, well, what can you predict from that? Well, you can predict that a lot of people that don't have the knowledge that you have are probably going to think that that applies to mortgages and interest rates overall. Well, if you could predict that, what do you have to do to preempt that? To your point, Anthony, being proactive, right? What can you do to preempt that behavior in order to prevent it? Predict, preempt, and prevent. And so that applies to everything. Your sales presentations really should, before you go in there, you should have predicted all of the objections. If you've done this long enough, you know there's probably no less than 5 to 10 things that people have an issue with, and you should have a preemptive strategy to address those before they come up. In a situation like this, you could predict that people are going to be stressed and irrational. Okay, so what can we do to calm that? Before you start delivering value proposition, let's create a semblance of understanding and a calmness of what's going on. And I'm telling you, your expertise and your ability to listen to them is going to create the calm right now. And I'm going to give you one phrase. I want to give you guys one phrase to go back to what you were saying, which is, because Anthony was talking about, you got to take information and disseminate it into a way that your consumer and your realtor partners can actually do something with it. And that is the phrase, what this means to you is. Here's what I mean. I have watched so many people post things, and I'll see if I can pull it up here. I'm a bad multitasker, so I'll probably pull it up as you're talking. But so many people post about what's happening in, the Fed doing this and the Fed doing that. And I read it. It was a good friend of mine. And I said, what does all that mean? The Fed doing this? And he said, well, you've got this and this and that happening and a bunch of other big words. And I go, great. What does that mean to me? I had to ask 4 times. And by the end, he goes, that means that interest rates are going to be lower. I had to ask 4 times to get what it actually meant to me out. And so what you guys need to do is, if you're going to talk about what's happening in the marketplace, in fact, one of your members, Stacey Stanley, did that wonderfully today. She got on there and she said, all right, guys, and she was real super calm. Here's what's going on. What you're hearing this thing is this word forbearance. And here's what it means to you. And she just went down and just laid it out so calmly. I was like cheering. I was like, that's what we need right there. Somebody that could take into layman's terms and put it into something that we can actually act upon. So I thought it was just really, really well done.
You've started a leadership series. I believe it's the Lighthouse series.
Yep.
So I want everybody to have a little bit of perspective on Rene is and Rene, I'm putting you, as we go through this, because there's an echo, I'm putting you on mute, so I'll take you off once I get back. But the reason why I started working with Rene was because over the last year and a half, I've come to the conclusion that fundamentally I look at loan officers, forget broker, forget retail. I look at loan officers in sort of the same bucket where, behaviorally, what they do on a daily basis, what their pain points are, what they care about, referral partners and closings and customers, it's all the same stuff. And what I really evaluate is their concerns and the things that drive them and the things that they are concerned about are all pretty much the same thing. And what I went to Rene with is, I spent a year and a half, helping communicate to brokers and loan officers about things that they need to do to evolve, to change, to stay ahead of the curve, to, be the best loan officer of the next 5 to 10 years, adopt new technology, all that good stuff. And, certain people, take that path and they follow the instruction and follow the lead. And other people just simply they're stuck in their ways. They'll show me that they have a notepad that's their CRM and that's their pipeline manager. And the decision that I really, kind of came to was like, hey, I've been a leader and a manager of people, loan officers for a very long time, but they've always been people that I can touch and spend time with every single day. So influencing change over people that I work with every day, I know how to do that. But I got 40,000 people across the country that I can't influence and can't, impact because I'm not working with them every day. So I went to Rene and I said, hey, let's talk about these issues and help me understand from your expertise, which is not just from a business management, sales management perspective, emotionally, what drives change. And I think one of the most impactful conversations we had was when we sat in my office and we whiteboarded out that entire conversation. So Rene, if you don't mind, could you share some of that dialogue?
Yeah, I think that we're looking at, there's so many elements. That's one of the reasons I created the Lighthouse series, is because I wanted to go deep into what this was in an educational format. No more simple sugar candy bar type information. This is like a full meal. But in understanding what's happening right now, we got to understand how we process information. And I'll give you a real quick example of this concept that we call System 1 and System 2, right? And if we look at System 1 and System 2, we are in one of those two systems when we process information. Our System 1 is our sympathetic nervous system. It's when we see something, we quickly respond to it. If something's coming at us, we quickly move out of the way of it coming at us. It's when we make very fast judgments on something. And it's designed to do that. If we're walking down the street, we see a creepy guy over there, we might walk across the other side of the street. If we're seeing something, it's that warning signal inside, right? It's not about logic. It's not about long-term. It's about the here and now. And it's also the part of the brain that makes very quick judgments based on little information that's usually wrong. And so I'll ask a question that I always ask is, how many of each animal did Moses bring on the ark? Do you remember this?
2 of each, right?
2 of each. That's what everybody says. Well, that's your System 1 at play, because the answer isn't 2. The answer is 0, because it was Noah, not Moses, right? And so, yeah, and it's such a predictable response because your System 1 takes little information based on context and says, Noah, Moses, old man, long time ago, bearded, ark, animals, it's got to be Noah, even though I clearly said Moses, right? But that's how our brain does this. It ignores critical information based on the context surrounding it. And if you even look at my last video, we chose an upbeat music. And I took a moment where I said, but if we wanted to be very serious about this situation and we changed the music, and all of a sudden that changes the context, which changes the emotional piece of what's going on. The media is designed to create this place where we tune in, because that's where they make money. And if fear and alarming breaking news is what gets us going, then guess what? That's their business model, is to catch our attention. It's not about being a public service organization. I learned that from Barry, 18 years ago. So the media is not a public service organization. And so when we really realize that, and guess what? Neither is Facebook. Neither are your friends posting on things, because guess what? They're searching for likes. They're searching for things. And usually the best quality stuff in terms of really positive things don't always get all that many likes. But oh man, all the juicy stuff that's gossip and short-term thing is the one that everybody starts commenting about. But if you have to read a little bit further, all of a sudden, we don't want that. We have short attention spans. It's like, okay, so we got to be able to understand the System 1 that's at play, and we got to start engaging System 2. System 2 is the slower part of us. It's the more human side of who we are. It's the one that says, what's 12 times 487? Well, I don't know either. I have to get a calculator to be able to figure that out. But we're the only species that could figure that out. Carry the 1 on the calculator, whatever it is. But that's System 1 and System 2 are always at battle. And right now, in times of stress, System 1 comes up. I learned this in dealing with Navy SEALs. And I went through the same training, not the BUDS training, but the same mindset, resilience, what we call biofeedback training that NFL Combine people went through in the Navy SEALs. Because when it comes to any elite performance, it's not about our skill set anymore. It's about, does our biology perform under stress? That's it. And so you're looking at a Navy SEAL that they are in System 1 world, which means if they mess up, they die. People are shooting at them. But they have to operate out of System 2, which means they're slow, methodical. And the only bridge between System 1 and System 2 is taking a deep breath in what they call box breathing. 4 seconds in, hold 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold 4 seconds. You ever watch any elite athlete before they're about to do something, the first thing they do is what? They take a deep breath because it's oxygen. And oxygen calms the system down so we can do this. But any system 1 response, which is quick to react, like you're saying, reaction is system 1. But being proactive is system 2. And how do we bridge that? We just got to chill out. Don't be a victim, and don't be the part of the sheep, if you will, that responds to what you see and reacts to what you see on Facebook. Sit back, get the information, get the data. Make rules for yourself to say, hold on a second. Somebody says something stupid. Don't react. Walk away from the computer. Ask yourself what the bigger thing is. And to your point, add value in that moment. Add value. Is what you're putting on there adding value? Are you educating or not? Because all of us, not just leaders, we're all going to be judged on how we were during this time. And you are either going to be that beacon of light, that somebody that guides the way, or you're going to be somebody that contributed to the chaos. You decide.
And I think that's a good segue into, your own situation that you've dealt with over the last couple of weeks. And it's actually been interesting for me to be an observer of your situation, because, Rene is a public speaker. He can be, a paid speaker, MC. He hosts an event series called Amplifii, which strongly recommend to anybody once we get on the other side of this shutdown to look into. It's very impactful, and any of our members that have participated in Amplifies will be the first to tell you that it's a game changer and a transformational experience. But Rene, a couple weeks ago, after Activate, you were obviously the MC at our event, and it was, you did an amazing job, and you had a keynote speech that was phenomenal with Maria Phelps, one of our brokers in Montana, that you brought on stage. But one of the things I saw is the first time I said to you, hey, they're going to shut things down, and you're like, no, they're not going to shut things down. And at that time, it was still early, and it was, we didn't know what was going to happen. But, after you came to terms with, hey, conferences are being canceled, my speaking engagements are being canceled, this is my livelihood, this is how I feed my family, this is how I, this is what I do and I enjoy and love. Once you came to grips with that, I saw you go through your own transformation. And that transformation was, you basically, you really weren't a social media guy. You weren't posting videos. You weren't doing any of that stuff. But within a week, from the time I, looked away to the time I came back, all of a sudden you were like, hey, I got 5 videos on leadership, on training, on all these different subjects. And you said, I just want to give it to, loan officers, your members. I just want to give it to them. I'm not looking for any money. I just want to provide value. And the reason why I think it's such an amazing, mindset changes, you went from a week of oh my goodness, what I do, my profession is traveling, being at conferences. This is devastating. And I heard in your voice, and I saw it in your eyes that, this was something that you were not okay with and you weren't happy about. And then within a matter of days, you went from, okay, how do I change? How do I adopt? How do I maximize the situation? How do I bring impact? And we talked a little bit about that earlier today, this morning, when we talked a little bit about, I know I don't, financially, you're not making any money right now because you're giving this away, and normally you'd be, hosting an event and getting paid for it. But the impact you're having has a much greater multiple. You shared a video the other day, within 2 days, it had 3,800 views. There aren't going to be 3,800 people at an Amplifii or a small conference. And I think from a mindset change, one of the things I am trying to overcome with a lot of people, with loan originators and mortgage brokers, is this mindset that because I haven't, I can't. And it's a really big, self-imposed, handicap that people put on themselves. And the reason why I know it's a handicap is because I went through this whole thing myself. I never used social media a couple of years ago. Then I became Mr. Social Media. And I see it every single day where people, they think it's impossible, or they think they'll never do it. But once they do it, once they get comfortable with it, with the proper support structure in place, they become very successful at it. And I think, that's one of the objectives that I have with Rene here, is to help our team, which is, obviously Team Broker, all the brokers from across the country, help understand that they aren't handicapped they are not limited by anything other than their own fear of failure and their own fear of the unknown. And right now, more than ever, I think that there's an incredible opportunity to get comfortable with the things that we're least comfortable with, and really learn from everybody willing to provide value on whether it's posting on social media, whether it's adopting new technology, whether it's training and building a team. Everybody is stuck at home right now, and everybody is willing to share their expertise right now. So now is one of the best opportunities I've ever seen to get best-in-class experience, best-in-class thought leaders to help anybody that's in our group, build a business, adopt technology, and conquer their fears.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. My mother once said, community is the answer. What's the question? And if you think about it, community solves everything. What you're creating here is a community. The engagements you have is a community. And I'm keep warning you, dude, you got to get some sleep because we need you around a lot longer, man. You got to make sure Anthony gets some self-care going on too. But, when this all came down, I looked at, I do 100 events a year. And when you go from all of that to zero, you're going, okay. And what's interesting is that I've been in these scenarios so many times that I was like, man, I wasn't expecting this one. And I had to look in the mirror. And this is something I'm just going to share what I did. I looked in the mirror and I said, okay, Rene, who are you really right now? Who are you? You talk about this, but can you actually do this? You talk about disruption. You talk about being innovative, reinvention. What are you? And I said, all right, I got to become an online trainer, online coach, whatever that is. And I started on that path, but I had this sick feeling inside. I got honest feeling. And whenever I get that feeling, something tells me I'm not aligned with what my real values are. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I go, there's no way I'm going to replace my income doing this. But this is information that's got to get out there. And I pulled my team together and I said, hey guys, we need to create some videos and some content. And it's got to be some of the best stuff we've ever done. They go, what are we going to sell it for? I said, nothing. This has got to get out there. And I go, the world works in a really great way. You give value, you get value in all sorts of ways. And the decision to do that was, and I'm not trying to make this about me, I'm trying to get this to more to what the mindset was, is one, in realizing what I can and what I can't control. And even deeper in there are things that matter and things that I can control. And that overlap of what actually matters and what can control becomes a very small little focus, right? Because you have all this stuff that matters, all these things that don't matter, that you can control, but only a piece of it that actually matters that you can control. And if you can get yourself focused on that, what matters that you can control, all of a sudden everything becomes pretty simple. That's what clarity is built on. And we said, okay, we can control content, we can control the quality of the videos, and we can control getting out. The rest of it really can't control. I can't control interest rates. I can't control what this virus is doing. I can't control whether I stay in. People say, am I worried about the virus? No. Why? Because I'm in my house. If I don't go out, what do I have to worry about? If I manage to track all those things, I don't worry about it. Am I worried about people's response? Yes. So what can I do to control that? Well, I can offer what I know to help manage that. So let's just give this information out as much as we can. And I would offer the same for other people here too, and this is why I keep saying we need your perspective on this. Those of you who are doing this, put your perspective out there and tell us what it means. Answer that question of what this means to you is. The reason I share this with you is because, and then you got to think about your audience. The reason you share this with for a client is going to be different than a realtor partner or maybe a financial advisor or your kids. But make sure you distill it down to them to do that, and then say, and then I would end with, I said, so as a result of all this, here are the two things that I think you can do right now. And now all of a sudden, I'm looking for action items because leadership is about creating some clarity for me, structure, order, predictability. And within this mass unpredictability, if you will, how do we create some level of a plan to move forward? What can I do today? If you guys can provide that for the people that are lost right now, you're going to become invaluable later. Don't worry about the right here and now. System 1 is here and now. System 2 is thinking 3-6 months from now, a year from now. Who have you become? Because you are establishing yourself right now. Who do you want to be?
I agree with you, and I actually just marked a post that I shared on Monday as an announcement in our group, so everybody can refresh the page after we get done this interview, and they'll be able to see the post I shared yesterday. And basically, it's about an 11-minute video that Rene created about. It's called the Courage Scale, and it's a really, it's self-explanatory. It will whack all of the the poor mindset, the boohoo, the world's against me type of stuff that happens, and we've all dealt with it. Believe me when I tell you, it doesn't matter who you are. You're always going to need somebody to rely on, to reach out to when your mind does get off track. I have a couple people that I rely on for that stuff. Rene is one of them, and I have some other folks that, no matter what happens, I can go to them and they can, level set and help me get in the right mindset. But think about your circle and the people that you rely on to get your mind in the right place, because I think it's really important that we understand that if you're going to rely on somebody to help level set with you and help you get to a positive place that is not a positive person and is a negative person, is somebody that isn't genuine in their interest in helping everybody in their life get better, that can't be one of your people that you rely on. And that is one of the things I look at, and I get concerned with a lot of people, because, I'll see them get into concerned in a place of doubt, and then them go to the person that they rely on to help, level set, and that person brings them even further into the mud. And I think right now what we have to realize is, regardless of the circumstances, the one thing that I could tell you is that at some point, whether it's, like Barry said earlier, it's a month, whether it's 2 months, whether it's 6 months, whatever the time it takes for us to get through this period of time, we're going to get through it. And once we get through it, we'll, start our recovery. We'll start, getting back to business and all that good stuff. But this is not a death sentence. And at the end of the day, people are talking like it's a death sentence. We have to bring reality to the market. We have to talk about what's in front of us. We have to be experts at the information related to our profession, so that we are making the best decisions for our customers, for our realtors, that we're working with the right partners, that we're aware of things that are happening both positively and negatively in the market from a lending perspective. But that doesn't need to be an all-encompassing situation. And right now, I think a lot of people look at things and they get a notification about something, an update. It could be a negative update. It could be whatever kind of update. Hey, non-QM with this lender is gone. And the mindset is, this just happened to me. And the truth of the matter is, the mindset needs to be, the minute that you get it, you register the information and you move on. And I realize that I'm simplifying it, but the truth of the matter is, that is how simple it is. If you have a mindset that you're going to dwell, and that you need to talk to people, and that everybody needs to get together and share their opinion about a subject, it becomes a total crap show. And in our group, one of the things I did very early on, and at the time I didn't know how important it was, but it turned out to be very important, is I took a policy that we're not going to allow religion to be talked about. We're not going to allow politics to be talked about. I do my best to make sure there's no sports talked about, because any topic that I saw that was a topic that created people to get triggered was a topic that we just was too divisive, or could be too divisive for my community to deal with. And I think it's looking at this situation. I've taken the same approach in the last week, where I said, hey guys, if you're negative, you got to go. You got to share your negative stuff somewhere else. And it's really understanding that it's not about being negative. It's understanding that negativity breeds negativity. And the goal right now is to be uplifting and to go out of your way to understand that you are somebody's person to help level set. Somebody is looking at you, looking forward to your social post every day, looking forward to the information you're sharing, and they're expecting you to help them be level set, to be in a positive mood, to have clarity during this period of time. And whether you know it or not, it's true. And it's really, really important that we all are understanding of that. So Rene, tell us about tell us about this Lighthouse series. I want everybody to understand what you're trying to accomplish with this series.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry about that.
Cool. So I think what you said is so critical right now, that who are the lighthouses that you look to? Who are those people that guide you? Because a lighthouse, think about the beautiful thing about a lighthouse. And more importantly, not just the lighthouse, but the lighthouse keeper. That to me is what's always fascinated with me, is that the mentality, the philosophy, or the mindset of a lighthouse keeper. The storm comes, everybody rushes away. The lighthouse keeper says, you know what? It's my time to go to work. Not everybody thinks that. The storm came, dude. You said, all right, sleep can wait for another few months because it's time for me to go to work. And you're up early. I mean, it'll be days that I talk to you, but I can get you at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, midnight, during the day, you're like, dude, don't bother me because I got something I got to do. And I don't take it personal. I'm like, that's just, you're in that mode of what you need to do. After I posted the first Courage Scale video, I got a phone call from a dear friend, Steve Arney. And I said, Steve, and if you don't know Steve, he's one of the top 100 most influential real estate professionals. And I'm not talking about, this is like truly like with Bernanke, he's like one of those guys. And I said, Steve, what's going on here? And he said, Rene, I'll give you an analogy. And what he did was he's giving me a frame to think about this, a way, a construct to do this. He goes, there's a difference between a tornado and a snowstorm. And I said, okay. He goes, a tornado rips through a town, tears down houses, tears down grids of electrical grids, and it just destroys the fundamentals of the town. And it takes 2 to 3 years to recover. He said, that was 2008. He said, Rene, we're in a snowstorm. A snowstorm comes in and everything shuts down for a little bit. But then, Rene, the snow melts. And when the snow melts, people come back out. He goes, right now, he goes, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. He goes, in a few months, those people who can't go to baseball games and basketball games and whatever sporting events, they're going to be itching to get out of their house and go there. People that want to go to movies, they're going to go and can't wait to stand in line at their favorite restaurant that they couldn't go outside. They'll wait an hour. And the servers and the stadium workers, everything, are going to be there with the biggest smiles they ever had because they're appreciating what's going on. You're going to put extra butter in your popcorn. You're going to order that extra hot dog. People are going to want to get out of their houses because they've been cooped up because our fundamentals are still in place. Now, in the meantime, there's a lot of tragedy going on with businesses that are going under, people that are highly stressed. And yes, people are dying from this. In perspective, and we hope that if we contain this thing, it's not going to be any worse than a flu ever was in a given year. So that, for me, Steve is a lighthouse for me. I look to him and I go, okay. I look to him. I look to you. I look to Barry. I look to other people saying, where are they at right now? Where's that barometer? And so one is we got to have our own lighthouses, but then we also have to really pay attention to who we're the lighthouse for, to your point. It's easy for us to go about this and think that nobody's watching us. And if we are that naive to think that maybe some people are watching us, or they're not watching us and they are, and we don't set the right barometer, right tone of what's going on, we've missed the boat to influence and to contribute to what's going on. So the Lighthouse series is simply this. I mean, I give away a lighthouse at every one of my Amplify events to a peer selected group person that really was the guiding light for the group. And I've always wanted to do a lighthouse series, and I thought, man, this is probably the time to do it. So we labeled it that, and it's really 4 videos, and I'm going to do some interviews and some things that we just put out there on social media. Give you the videos, post it however you want. There's a site on my website that you can actually see those. It's no different. It's not different there than it is on social media or YouTube. But we wanted to give it out as information. Now there's 3 pieces. One is the courage scale, which is getting your mind right and your energy in the right place. And I love what you said. If you're surrounded by a group of people and they're talking negative shit, and they're talking about other people, that's my big indicator. If I'm having a conversation more than 2 minutes about someone else that's not in the room, this conversation needs to change, or I need to move myself out. And I will say it. I say, guys, let's just, what's that great quote that says, great minds talk about, small minds talk about people, great minds talk about ideas. All I hear is us talking about people right now.
Yep.
Can we talk about some ideas or the negative shit that's going on? Can we talk about ideas, what we can do? Because we can talk about all the negative stuff, or we can start being innovative and create something. Because I guarantee you, some people are going to thrive right now. Will it be you? It's really about whether you're talking about the negative stuff or are you building upon what's going on. And so we think about where we're spending our time. That's going to be a very critical component. I had a second thought, but it'll come back to me in a minute. And so, okay. I was going through the pieces. So one is our mindset. The second one is around the brain. What's happening to us? What's happening to other people? What's going on? How are we processing information? Energy right, and let's logically understand so we can analyze where is it that I'm at, give us some structure to the emotional environment that we're feeling right now. Now, the third one that's coming out tomorrow is a simple sales process, because I want you to get ready, get set, and then go start talking to realtors, get crystal clear on the 6 activities, try to get in the camera here, 6 activities that you should be focused on right now. There's only 6 ways that you make money in this industry. Either you're prospecting, setting appointments, presenting value, closing, aftercare, or getting referrals. Only those 6. And sometimes prospecting means putting out information, right? But you prospect to generate leads, and you put those in the pipeline, you set appointments, and you present value. My question is, are you presenting value, or are you winging it? Do you have a set presentation? Do you have any value to offer? Or are you just saying, here's your rate and that's your presentation? Right now, you have to step up your game and give a presentation, give them some value, help them understand what's going on in the marketplace, so that people right now understand that this is a great time to buy a home. Because in 10 years, they're either going to thank you or they're going to say, why didn't you tell me? So prospecting, setting appointments, presentation of value, close, aftercare, which is communicating, right? Make sure they feel good about what they did, wow them, and then get referrals. That cycle continues. And so that whole, my third one is coming out, is just a very simple process. And we call it PAPCAR, prospecting, appointments, presentation, after closing, aftercare, referrals. All those 6 come together. So I want to kind of give all 3 of those so that we can say, here's 3 things we're going to do: get our minds right, get our energy right, get our heads right, and then start acting. You're on mute.
So Rene, I think the important thing for everybody is to understand what's the why behind this, what we're doing here, and understanding at a deep level. Number one, before this whole thing happened with the shelter in place and whatnot, we've already scheduled. Rene's coming to do 3 days with my team here at AIME, to spend 1 day with the entire team and another day in a smaller setting with groups of my team, focused on, a lot of things he's giving away for free in these videos. And I think it's important. The reason why I was making that investment in my team is because all of the things that Rene is sharing are things that aren't just personally valuable to me, and have helped me be a better communicator, be a better human, and a better listener, and a better understanding of how I can be most impactful to the people that I'm working with, working for. And it's been a huge transformation for me personally. So the reason why I point this out is it's free. He's putting it out there, and giving everybody this content. And what I don't want people to do is waste this opportunity and waste this opportunity to really learn, because not only are you going to be able to watch these videos, like I just watched his video he just put out the other day, and I watched the whole thing, and immediately I hit him up after. I called him within a couple of minutes, and you might not take everybody's calls, but you're open to this conversation. You're open to giving feedback, to talking through these situations with our members, with loan officers, with anybody out there. And I think it's a really incredible opportunity to really take some time to invest in yourselves and develop yourself to be a better leader. And believe me when I tell you that, the person I was at 30, the person I was at 31, the person I was last year, I've gone through massive changes and massive transformations. And the only reason that's happened is because of the fact that I've been willing to learn from people that are better at things than I am, and learn how to handle situations. So for everybody that's out there, we're going to wrap up now, but I just want to really, really strongly recommend, go on your Facebook right now, click on Rene's profile, follow him, like or follow, connect, however you have to do it on Facebook. Watch these videos. They're impactful. They are there's no, hey, I'm signing up for a coaching service. Hey, I'm getting, I got 1-800, my coach is here now. This is simply Rene pouring out 30 years of some transformational experiences that he's provided to companies, and he's giving it to our members. And again, he's doing it for the sole purpose of providing value, and hopefully helping everybody in the way he's helped AIME, and he's helped me.
20 years.
So anything you want to say before we wrap up here?
I'd say, well, thank you. And yes, dude, have me on anytime you want. Like this is the time to connect and figure this stuff out. I'm more than happy to take questions. Remember this: predict, preempt, prevent. Be able to answer the question, what this means to you is. If you cannot answer the question of what this means to you is, go learn and get better. Bottom line. And if you can not answer it, figure it out, find somebody who can. Make sure that you're looking at predict, preempt, prevent, what this means to you. You send respond versus react, or be proactive about it, and tell the story of the snowstorm and the tornado. Give people an understanding and a perspective and a frame of what's going on. And then here's the thing: if we all start building to what's happening when the snow melts, guess what's going to happen when the snow melts? We'll be ready. It's no different than the seasons of life. If you plant seeds now, and we nurture those seeds right now, when it comes time to harvest, guess what? There's no victims in the harvest time. Either you plant it in the spring or you're going to beg in the fall. That's how it comes down to, right? So we need to start planting some seeds right now. This is the winter. plant some seeds so that when the fall comes, you're ready to go.
That is exactly right, and I hope everybody got a lot out of this. Please watch those videos, and we'll have Rene back next week. Looking forward to it. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you, Rene.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for everything you're doing, man. And get some sleep and some rest. We need you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.